She knocked again. 3 soft taps, exactly like every other night. Quiet enough that the neighbors wouldn't notice, but firm enough that I felt it echo in my ribs. And even before I opened the door, I knew what I would see. That same alien beauty standing on my porch with her glowing eyes, her silver, blue skin shimmering faintly in the dark, and that expression she always wore, something between worry, curiosity, and a kind of need she didn't know how to hide. The kind of look that made a man rethink his entire bedtime routine, because nothing, and I mean nothing, ever prepares you for a woman from the stars choosing your house as her nightly stop. The strange part, though, wasn't the visits. It wasn't even her beauty, which felt almost unfair to the rest of the galaxy. No, the real shock came from what she always demanded the moment I opened the door. She'd stand there, her hands gently pressed together, her voice soft but urgent, and she'd whisper the exact same words. "Human, I need the unbelievable thing again." And every time she said it, I still couldn't figure out whether I should laugh, panic, or just accept that my life had officially crossed into some bizarre after-hours alien sitcom, because she wasn't asking for food, or shelter, or warmth, or anything normal. The thing she needed. Well, I still couldn't explain it to anyone without sounding like I'd lost my mind. The first night she had come, I thought it was some kind of cosmic prank, because how else does a human man process the idea of an alien beauty knocking on your door after midnight and asking for something so unusual that even her own people refused to help her? She had been cold, trembling slightly, her bioluminescent markings flickering like a broken neon sign. She kept looking over her shoulder, like someone, or something, had followed her here. I didn't know whether I should offer her a blanket or a police report. But when she asked for the unbelievable thing, when she whispered it, I remember thinking the universe had finally lost its last screw. Tonight, though, was different. The way she looked at me when I opened the door, calmer, but more intense, as if she had made a decision. The kind of look that warned me this night wouldn't be like the others. "You came," I said quietly, though of course she had. She always came, every night, without missing a single one. She nodded slowly, her shimmering hair falling over her shoulders like liquid light. "I must," she said softly, her voice carrying that strange mixture of accent and emotion that always lingered in the air. "My body, it reacts to your presence. It reacts to you, human. Only you?" I couldn't lie, not even to myself. Hearing her say things like that always sent a warm, confused shiver down my spine. Because no matter how realistic or grounded I tried to be, having a stunning alien woman imply she depended on me for something her own species couldn't give. "Yeah, that does things to a man." She stepped closer, a little too close, close enough that I felt the gentle heat radiating from her skin. Her species wasn't normally warm, she had explained once. They were cool-blooded, steady, calm, logical. Not her. Not when she came here. When she was near me, her temperature rose, her markings brightened, her breath got unsteady. And every time she placed her palm against my chest in that hesitant, curious way, her skin warmed in seconds, as if I was heating her from the inside out. That was the unbelievable thing she needed. My heat. My human warmth, not metaphorical heat, literal body heat. She needed to press close, to absorb warmth through touch, like some strange biological pairing instinct her species never talked about openly. And apparently my specific warmth, something about my genetics, or the rhythm of my heartbeat, matched exactly what her body needed. But she never took it lightly. She always hesitated before touching me, like the act itself had a deeper meaning for her people. Her hand hovered just above my chest now, trembling slightly as if she was fighting with herself. I wondered if her species had rules about this, rituals, customs, taboos. She never explained it clearly. But the way she lingered, the way she breathed, the way she looked at the point where her fingers almost touched me, it was never simple for her. "Are you sure?" I asked quietly, even though she had come to my door every single night with the same need. She nodded in that slow, graceful way of hers, but she didn't move her hand. "I am sure," she whispered, "but I am afraid of taking too much." Her voice always had that gentle tremble when she got close, like her body was warning her that this was dangerous, like her instincts were fighting her decisions. I didn't know whether to find it flattering or terrifying. She drew in a slow breath, her markings glowing brighter with each second she hesitated. Then she finally pressed her palm flat against my chest. The warmth spread instantly, her breath caught, and her eyes closed as a soft wave of heat moved through her body. She let out a quiet sound, half sigh, half relief, and leaned into me like gravity had suddenly pulled her forward. It wasn't romantic, not exactly. It was need, pure, instinctive need. But the closeness, the way her forehead brushed my shoulder, the gentle tension in her voice as she whispered my name. Yeah, there was something else there too. Something unspoken. After a moment she opened her eyes, calmer now, but still a little shaky. "Your warmth," she murmured. "It is stronger tonight. It feels different." She didn't pull away. I didn't step back. There was a soft silence between us, the kind that always felt like a mini cliffhanger life was dangling in front of me. She whispered again, closer than before, "Something is changing inside me, and I fear what tomorrow night may require." Her hand trembled against my chest as her markings dimmed and brightened again, pulsing in a rhythm I had never seen. And that was the moment I realized something was wrong. Very wrong. She wasn't just absorbing warmth anymore. Her body was reacting in a way she hadn't expected, and the way she looked at me, it wasn't just need. It was fear, and she was afraid of what her instincts would demand next. She kept her hand on my chest longer than usual, long enough to make me wonder whether she was absorbing warmth or courage. Her fingertips felt warmer than I had ever felt them, almost human warm, and that alone made my pulse kick up a notch. Her species wasn't supposed to heat up like that unless something was seriously wrong or something instinctual had begun. And when she finally pulled her hand back, she didn't step away. Instead, she looked at her palm like it was betraying her, glowing faintly brighter than before, then lifted her gaze to mine with that look of quiet panic she tried so hard to hide. "What changed?" I asked gently, even though I could already sense the answer. Her markings were brighter, her pupils slightly dilated, and the subtle shimmering across her shoulders pulsed in a pattern I hadn't seen before. Something inside her was awakening, reacting, or breaking whatever rules her species lived by. She swallowed, her throat shimmering faintly, and whispered, "My body wants more than warmth now." She stepped a tiny bit closer, maybe an inch, but that inch felt like a mile of emotional weight. I took a slow breath, because every part of her body language was sending me two signals at once. "Don't touch me until I ask, and please don't leave me alone with this." It was the kind of tension that made a man feel like he was walking through a doorway he couldn't close again. A doorway she kept pulling me toward, even while she warned me away. She finally found her words. "On my world," she said slowly, "touch is not random. Touch is permission, a bond, a declaration." She looked down at her own trembling hands, glowing hotter with each passing second. "What I ask of you is more than a request now. It is something my people would not approve. Something that means too much." She hesitated, then added with a soft, uneasy breath, "But my body still asks." Her voice cracked slightly on the last word, and I could tell she didn't know whether to apologize or hope I understood. And the worst part was, I did understand. Not the science, not the alien biology, but the feeling. I knew what it looked like when someone was torn between instinct and fear. I knew what it felt like when closeness meant more than either of you planned. "Come inside," I said quietly, and she hesitated just long enough for me to know how serious this was. She stepped through the door like she was crossing a forbidden boundary, her glowing markings flickering as the warmth of the room brushed over her skin. She stood there a moment, looking around my living room the same way she always did, curious, emotion-filled, a bit overwhelmed. Humans decorated everything, she once told me. Her people lived in smooth, empty spaces. No pictures, no blankets, no clutter. She always stared at my furniture like it held a secret language. Tonight, however, she didn't wander. She moved straight to me, stopping only when she was close enough that her breath warmed the air between us. "My instincts, they are shifting," she murmured. "It is no longer enough to take your heat through my hand." Her fingers twitched, as if her body wanted to demonstrate what she meant, but her mind refused to give it permission. She looked torn, embarrassed, and genuinely afraid that whatever she asked next would push things somewhere neither of us could retreat from. "Tell me what you need," I said quietly. Not in a dramatic tone, not in a brave one. Just honest, steady, ready to help her through something she clearly didn't understand. She took a slow breath, her markings pulsing once. Bright, then dim. "My body requires contact." She paused, then added quickly, "Not the kind you think. Not mating, not claiming, not anything like that." She waved her hands, flustered. "Our species does not connect that way with humans. You are too." She hesitated, searching for a polite word. "Too warm, too intense." I couldn't help the tiny smile that threatened to appear. Even in crisis, she found ways to accidentally flirt without realizing. "But my body," she continued softly, "needs your warmth along more surface. My arms, my shoulders. Here." She touched the side of her neck gently, then let her hand fall. "It is part of our thermoregulation. When it is triggered this strongly, we must press against a source until the heat spreads." I blinked. "You want to hug?" I asked. She closed her eyes and sighed as if the word itself embarrassed her. "Not exactly a hug. More like pressed against you. More than before. Longer than before." She looked at the floor. "It is unbelievable for my kind. We do not do this. It is shameful. It is intimate. It is something we only do with the one we—" She stopped herself abruptly, cheeks glowing brighter. "We only do it rarely." Suddenly the unbelievable part made a lot more sense. She wasn't asking for warmth. She was asking for closeness her species considered a deep, private gesture, something they reserved for bonds, trust, maybe even relationships, something no human was supposed to be part of. And she chose me. I stepped closer, slow enough not to startle her, and when I raised my hands slightly, inviting, not touching, she froze but didn't step away. Her eyes met mine, wide and unsure, but filled with something she couldn't hide anymore. Then she moved, slowly, carefully, almost painfully hesitant. She pressed her forehead to my shoulder first, letting her hair fall around us like a shimmering curtain. Her hands came next, resting lightly against my sides, her fingers trembling as if her instincts were screaming that this was too much, too intimate, too revealing. But she stayed close. She let out a quiet, shaky breath as her body absorbed the warmth spreading through her skin, her markings glowing brighter and steadier with each second. I felt her chest rise and fall against mine, and then I heard it, a soft, almost involuntary sound escaping her throat. A relieved, vulnerable sound that she tried and failed to hold back. A sound that told me she needed this far more than she let herself believe. "You give too much warmth," she whispered, voice trembling against me. "I cannot hold it all. I do not know what it will do to me." Another pause. Another soft breath. Another instinct she couldn't hide. Or what it will make me feel next. Her arms tightened, just a little. And that tiny movement changed everything. Because her instincts weren't just reacting to heat now. They were reacting to me. And she felt it, and she feared it. She stayed against me longer than either of us expected. Longer than she ever had on any night before. Her body was warmer now, almost matching mine, and that alone told me her internal temperature was rising faster than her biology intended. I could feel the faint pulse of her markings through her skin, a gentle rhythm that synced to my heartbeat for a few strange seconds, then fluttered out of sync again, like she was struggling to control it. Her breath came out calmer, but still unsteady, and when she finally eased back just enough to look up at me, the look in her eyes wasn't fear anymore. It was confusion. Deep, terrified, beautiful confusion. She blinked slowly, as if the world around us had changed shape. "Human," she said softly. "Something is happening." She touched her forehead, then the side of her neck, then her chest, as if checking herself for damage she didn't understand. "Your warmth, it is inside me now. Not on my skin. It is traveling." She placed her hand over her heart, if that's what the glowing point on her chest represented, and her fingers trembled. "I feel it here, and here." She moved her hand to her throat, and here, then to her temples. "This has never happened. This is not normal. Does it hurt?" I asked, stepping a little closer without thinking. "No," she whispered, shaking her head slightly. "It feels—" She hesitated, and her cheeks brightened with a warm violet glow. "It feels good. Too good." Her breath hitched. I am not supposed to feel good from warmth. The way she said it made her embarrassment almost adorable. I kept my voice low, steady, calm. "What does your species usually do when this happens?" She swallowed hard, looking away. "It does not happen. We absorb warmth from artificial surfaces, not living beings. Living warmth is taboo." "It means—" She stopped again. Every pause she made seemed to get heavier, like her instincts were pushing her to admit something her mind refused to speak. She tried again. "It means you have begun imprinting on my system." Her hand pressed lightly against her chest as she whispered, "My body is learning you." That sentence changed the air in the room. Learning me. Not just warmth, me, my rhythm, my scent, my breath, my temperature, my presence, everything. It hit me slowly, like a realization creeping in from behind. Her nightly visits weren't random instinct. They were directional, focused, personal. She wasn't just absorbing warmth. She was adapting to me, imprinting on me, and forming a bond her people clearly considered forbidden or dangerous. She saw the realization in my eyes and stepped back instinctively, but only a little, as if her body didn't want distance even when her mind did. "I should go," she whispered, but her feet didn't move. Her markings dimmed, then brightened again in a frantic pulse. "This is dangerous. If I take more warmth from you, the imprint will deepen. I will react to you uncontrollably." I tilted my head slightly. "What kind of reaction are we talking about?" She clenched her hands, struggling to form words. "Strong behavior, intense emotion, attachment, instinctive closeness." She looked at the floor, cheeks glowing. "And more contact than is appropriate between species." She hesitated, and when her eyes lifted back to mine, they were softer, warmer, full of a vulnerability she could no longer hide. "My people would say I am already too close." I didn't move. Neither did she. The silence settled between us like a decision waiting to be made. "So what do you want to do?" I asked quietly. Her answer didn't come immediately. Her breathing slowed, her shoulders relaxed, and her markings shifted into a deep, pulsing glow. She stepped closer again, so close that her chest brushed mine, and her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. "My instincts want to stay." Her gaze flicked to my lips for half a second before she snapped her eyes back upward, clearly embarrassed by her own body. "My mind says no. My body is louder." A soft, nervous breath escaped her. Too loud. I lifted a hand slightly, giving her the chance to pull back, but instead she leaned into it, her cheek brushing my fingers with a warmth that hadn't been there before. Her eyes closed just a little, her body relaxing under my touch, as if she'd been starving for it, without knowing until now. When she opened them again, they were deeper, more expressive, almost pleading. "You cannot give me more warmth tonight," she whispered. "If you do, I will cross a boundary I cannot uncross." She swallowed again. "But I also cannot stop myself from wanting it." Her honesty landed harder than I expected. She wasn't playing games. She wasn't flirting. She was fighting her own biology, her own instincts, and everything she'd ever been taught about what she was allowed to feel toward a human. "Then tell me what you need," I said softly, because pushing her or stepping away would only make her panic more. She took a moment, thinking, breathing slowly, grounding herself the way she did when her instincts overwhelmed her. Then she stepped past me, surprising me with how close she brushed as she did. She moved to my couch, the same couch she always stared at every night, but never sat on. Tonight she sat, slowly lowering herself, like she'd been taught not to ever sit where humans rested. She placed her hands on her knees and looked up at me with a hesitant tilt of her head. "Sit with me," she whispered. "Not touching. Not yet. Just next to me. Close enough that your warmth reaches me." She paused, then added shyly, "I need to feel you without connecting." I sat down beside her, and she flinched like the air itself had warmed by 10 degrees. She inhaled sharply, her markings brightening in a gentle glow. "Too warm," she whispered, though she didn't move away. She stayed still, breathing through the sensation, letting her body adjust. We sat like that, quiet, close, cautious, and every few seconds her hand inched just slightly toward mine, never touching, but drifting closer each time. When her pinky finally brushed mine by accident, she gasped softly, her whole body reacting like she'd been struck by a spark. She pulled her hand away immediately, palms pressed together tightly. "Unbelievable," she whispered to herself. "Your heat travels through the air. It feels like it is calling me." Then she added even quieter, "Why does your warmth feel like that?" The air between us grew thicker, charged, tense, delicate. Then her voice dropped to a level barely above a breath. "Human, if I stay any longer, I will do something my people would forbid." My pulse slowed. Hers quickened. She looked at me with eyes that had shifted from fear to longing, raw, honest longing. And then, with a trembling breath, she whispered the sentence that changed everything. "I want your warmth everywhere." Her lips parted slightly, her hand reached out, trembling, inching toward my arm. And just before she touched me, she froze again. The moment her trembling hand hovered inches from my arm, everything in the room shifted. The warmth, the air, the quiet tension hanging between us like something alive. She stared at her own fingers, as if she no longer trusted them. The faint glow pulsing through her skin in a rhythm that betrayed everything her mind was trying to control. She took a slow breath that trembled at the end, then another, but her instincts were pushing her forward no matter how she tried to steady herself. When her fingertips finally made contact with my arm, barely a brush, the reaction was immediate. Her breath caught. Her markings flared in a cascading wave of bright shimmering violet, and she pressed her lips together as if the feeling overwhelmed her. "This is too much," she whispered. Though she didn't pull away, if anything, her body leaned into the touch without her permission. The warmth spread through her arm first, then her shoulder, then down her spine like a slow, awakening current, and she gave a quiet, helpless sound that no translator could sanitize into anything innocent. "Human, your heat, it feels like it is rewriting me," she murmured, and her voice carried a kind of honesty she had never allowed herself before. She shifted closer, drawn by instinct more than choice, until her forehead brushed my shoulder and her hand slid from my arm to the side of my chest, fingers curling slightly as if needing something to hold on to. Her body softened against mine, her temperature rising with each second, and I could feel how close she was to losing control of whatever boundary her people believed in. "I should not be doing this," she said into my shoulder, her breath warm and shaky. "But I cannot stop. My biology is calling to you. Stronger than before. Stronger than I can resist." She lifted her face, her eyes glowing softly, filled with the kind of vulnerable courage that belonged to someone stepping into the unknown. "What will you do if I cannot stop?" she asked, not flirtatiously, not playfully, but with raw fear that I might withdraw when she needed me most. I didn't move away. I didn't speak right away either, because she was already leaning in, already choosing her next action. She placed both hands on my chest now, slowly, reverently, her palms spreading warmth across my skin as her breath deepened, sensing to mine without either of us planning it. Her voice dropped to a trembling whisper as she admitted, "My body is imprinting. Completely. Irreversibly. If I take this much warmth, I will be bound to you." I felt her pulse race through her fingertips, and for the first time she didn't try to hide the truth. It means I will always return to you. I will seek you. I will react to you. I will choose you even when I do not understand why. The confession stunned her as much as it stunned me, because her cheeks flushed brighter, and she looked down, ashamed not of her need but of admitting it. She swallowed, then added even quieter, "It means I trust you, more than I should." She leaned fully into me now, her body melting against mine with a warmth that felt like her entire being had surrendered to instinct. And when I wrapped an arm around her waist to steady her, she released a soft, involuntary breath that told me I had touched something deeper than warmth alone. Her hands tightened slightly on my chest, her markings pulsing like a heartbeat, and for a long moment she simply stayed there, breathing, glowing, absorbing, becoming. When she finally spoke again, her voice had changed, deeper, softer, bonded. "It is done," she whispered. "I took too much. I am yours now." The words weren't possessive, they were biological, instinctual, the truth of her species spoken without hesitation. She rested her forehead against my neck, letting her body settle into the new imprint, and every part of her posture softened, as if the decision she'd feared had turned into the comfort she needed. "No more hiding," she murmured. "No more running from the nights. I will come to you because I am meant to." Her fingers trailed lightly across my chest, not seeking warmth now but connection, recognition, grounding. "Human, you changed me." There was no fear left in her voice, only calm acceptance that something irreversible had happened between us. She lifted her head at last, her glowing eyes meeting mine with a kind of gentle certainty that made my heartbeat echo louder than I intended. "Tomorrow night," she whispered, "my body will come to you not for warmth, but for closeness, for understanding, for what follows an imprint." She didn't explain what that meant, not fully, but the look she gave me carried a promise of intimacy that went beyond biology and into something emotional, something chosen. She placed one last warm palm on my chest, feeling my heartbeat match her glowing pulse, and whispered, "I will return." Then, before her instincts tempted her further, she stepped back, shaking, glowing, changed, and slipped out the door into the cool night. But this time she didn't look over her shoulder nervously. This time she looked back with a soft, certain smile that said everything we were both too overwhelmed to say aloud. And I knew, standing there with the lingering warmth of her touch still burning across my chest, that tomorrow night would not be like the nights before. Tomorrow everything would begin.